So Good Fortune was directed by Aziz Ansari and also stars Aziz Ansari, also features Seth Rogen, Keanu Reeves, Kiki Palmer, and Sandra Oh. In this movie, it's about a man named Arj who's down on his luck, played by Aziz Ansari, who is visited by a budget guardian angel, played by Keanu Reeves, who tells him, hey, you have a lot to live for, man, but since you don't seem appreciative of your life, why don't I switch your life with the life of a tech billionaire, played by Seth Rogen? And after he switches their lives, Aziz Ansari's character doesn't want to switch back. So Keanu Reeves and Seth Rogen must convince him otherwise. So this is a movie I was looking forward to for a few reasons. Mainly because I thought the premise was very interesting. I thought the cast sounded pretty funny. The cast themselves, I like pretty much everyone in this cast. I like Keanu Reeves, Seth Rogen, Aziz Ansari, Kiki Palmer. I love everyone in this cast. Also, I was very excited to see Aziz Ansari finally make his directorial debut. He's been trying to make a movie for years. And also, I was just very happy to see Keanu Reeves taking on a more lighthearted role, a more comedic role, which we haven't seen him do in quite some time. So I was very excited to see what this movie was like. And for the most part, I would say I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very funny. I thought the performances were pretty good. I thought the chemistry between them was very, very good. I thought some of the themes were very good. So let's dive into it. First off, nearly everyone in this movie I thought did a fantastic job. I liked Aziz Ansari in this movie. I liked Seth Rogen in this movie. I thought he was more of a interesting tech billionaire in this movie than he was in Dumb Money. He's strangely more believable in this movie as a tech billionaire. Keanu Reeves in this movie steals the show. I thought he was absolutely hysterical throughout this entire movie. He steals pretty much every scene he's in, and it looks like he's just having fun at times. Like, I'm just really happy to see Keanu happy. Kiki Palmer's always a delight on screen. Also, Stephen McKinley Henderson also appears in this movie very briefly towards the beginning of the movie. I thought he was really good in this for his brief scene where he kind of gives a speech about the importance about like finding a lost soul and changing their life. I thought that was very well done. Also, I do think this movie is very funny. There are times in like at least the first half of this movie where I was laughing throughout it. Like there were some really funny jokes and there were some sadly relatable moments because I feel like this is one of those movies where you can see something that kind of like some of the main characters go through is like, yeah, I've been in that predicament before, like whether you don't really have enough money for something or it's like you become desperate for money so you got to do something. Also, it kind of felt like some of these situations may have been a little too honest for me. I'm like, yeah, I've been there before. I don't really like it. Thanks for calling me out, movie, but it kind of made it weirdly relatable. Also, I do think the messages themselves in the movie are very interesting about how, yes, you kind of get one of those, be appreciative of the life you do have. And I do think that how they manage to like fix things is very fascinating. And also, kind of once again, one of those movies where it shows, just because you have all this power, you just have all this wealth, it can corrupt you still. And I do find that very fascinating as well. Also, I do like throughout this movie, there were some moments where it's like, okay, I would forgot about this moment early on, and it's like, oh, I'm glad that I kind of caught that early on because like you were kind of alluding to that early on, and now I see it in this movie play out. It's like, okay, I'm really glad that I remember that moment from this movie. I usually like it when movies do that, so it's like if I go back and watch it, it's like, okay, I didn't remember. I remember that from the first time. It's like that's gonna play out later. So I do think Good Fortune does a really good job with that. But let's talk about some things that don't really work in this movie. First off, there are a couple jokes in this movie where they just didn't land for me. Some jokes in the second half, I felt like they were just not as funny as the jokes in the first half. Also, some characters at some points just completely disappear. Like, there's one point where Keanu Reeves disappears. There's one point where Kiki Palmer disappears. There's even a moment where Aziz Ansari disappears, and I'm like, weren't these characters in this movie? And then eventually they come in. There's moments where it's like, okay, it's going to focus on these characters for a while. And so it becomes jarring a little bit. It's like, okay, I feel like you could have done that a little bit better where you now focusing on these characters rather than this character. So I felt like they could have done that a little bit better. Also, I felt like there were multiple endings for this movie. I felt like the movie kind of dragged on for like the last, like, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like that, where it's like, okay, here's all the different endings you could have for this movie, and they kind of wanted to throw them all in there. It's like, okay, fine, I guess, but it felt like they were trying to do everything. And also, now I mentioned like Stephen McKinley Henderson does a really good job as one of the angels in this movie. Sandra Oh, I thought she was just okay. I felt like she wasn't really given a big enough role to really do anything with her character, so I was kind of disappointed with how they used her character in this movie. And also, they have a joke of like all these other angels and like what they do and such. I was kind of hoping that they would use them a little bit more and say like, okay, here's why this angel is important and like why their job is important. And also, maybe you could have had cameos from some other people as angels. That would have been really funny. But the movie itself is already kind of dragging on because of like some of the stuff they do, particularly in the last 20 minutes. But I kind of wanted to see more of like their interactions too. And I guess, like, it's kind of focusing on everybody. It's focusing on Aziz Ansari's character, it's focusing on Keanu Reeves' character, and it just feels like at times it kind of goes back and forth. But overall, I would still say I enjoyed this movie. I had a good time watching it. It's a nice movie with a nice message about, you know, respecting your life, enjoying your life, and making sure you don't become corrupted by being rich and such. I do think the movie has very good performances, particularly from Aziz Ansari, Seth Rogen, Keke Palmer, Stephen McKinley Henderson, but especially Keanu Reeves. Anytime I just see Keanu Reeves happy, I'm just like, I'm happy too. And I do think the movie is very funny, the messages are very interesting, and even though I don't really like all the jokes in the movie, and I do feel like they could have cleaned up a few things with the storylines and such, and also the endings could have been fixed a little bit more, and also would have liked to see more of the angels in this movie and like what they do. I would still kind of recommend this movie, especially if you like any of these stars. I will give Good Fortune 3 out of 4 stars. See it. So, what is your favorite Keanu Reeves movie? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.